Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to The Sweat. It is good having you here. I am Emerson Lotzia. We got a ton on tap for you guys and gals. We got top DFS plays on this 9-game NHL slate. Best bets ahead of a do-or-die Game 5 between bitter rivals on the diamond. We're talking the Giants and the Dodgers. And lots of NFL goodness, including how you can win $1 million. The Week 6 Millie Maker is alive and well right meow in the DK lobby. Enter for just $20. That's it. And you're shot at the $1 million top prize. And since this contest is part of the DraftKings Championship Series, if you bring home the dub, you'll earn a seat in the Fantasy Tournament of Champions, which offers another $1 million top prize when that event takes place in January of 2022. So just here in like 2 months or so. There's a Thursday night Millie Maker I would like to remind all of you available tonight as well. We're going to talk Bucks to Eagles DFS plays, the best plays there later in this show. But first, how about a DK Sportsbook look at this matchup? Good morning to our NFL panel consisting of DraftKings contributors, Pierce Dietrich, Sweet T. Fowler, and Julian Edlow. Julian, is that a new hat that you're rocking?
It's new as of this football season, I guess. They're around. I can talk to somebody and maybe get you one. Yeah,
thank you very much. That looks very, very nice on your head. Okay, so guys, Tampa is the 6.5-point favorite here. You got a 52.5-point game total. Which one are you targeting, Sweet T?
I probably lean a little bit more towards the over in the game total at 52.5 as opposed to the line. I think there are some trends that point to Philadelphia actually being the better of the two when it comes to the number and the spread. Eagles are 4-0 ATS in their last 4 home games. And on Thursday night, they're 5-1 ATS in their previous 6. And the trends for the Bucks are essentially the exact opposite, right? They're not great on Thursday night. They're not great as road favorites, but still, this is Tom Brady. They're coming in with some injuries. So I'd lean more towards the over. We'll get to how I feel how this game's going to go in a little bit. But for this specific bet or this specific question, give me the over 52.5.
And Jules, I'm looking at the DK Sportsbook right now. Bucks now 7-point favorites.
Yeah, the public, I just tweeted out the betting splits for the week. The public's all over the Bucks, all over Tom Brady against a bad defense. It makes sense. About 90% of the bets and money on Tampa. I do have a teaser that I'm very fortunate to have alive with the Ravens from Monday night that has Tampa winning this game, a smaller bet, and that's like the only way I'm approaching this if you want to take a side. I think Tampa gets by and wins this game against a pretty meh Eagles team, but they're at home on the short week. Brady's got the thumb injury. Like, this could be a weird game. I think the Bucks win. Not willing to play anything on the spread. If you told me you got to pick a side, total, anything, I'm with Reed. I would play the over here. We have the worst rushing defense, one of the worst rushing defense in the Eagles here. A decent passing defense going by the numbers in terms of yards per game, but I'm sure Tom Brady and those weapons will be able to get theirs in this spot. And then Tampa's atrocious pass defense that ranks last in the league, allowing more than 300 yards. Jalen Hurts should be able to find Jalen Reagor for a deep one, be able to find Smith and Zach Ertz here in a really good prop spot, which we're going to talk about with a tight end out. I think this game's going to find a way to get some points.
Yeah, Bucks have been scoring quite a bit here. Brady, 15 touchdown passes, only 2 picks in 5 games, Pierce. So you want that spread? You want the over or under on the points total?
Little known fact, Reed T. Fowler, the T stands for trends. But who cares about the trends this week, Reed?
Ooh.
He loves his trends. And you know what? Sometimes they hold up, but Tampa is the better team. Tampa's going to cover this spread. What are we talking about? The Eagles got lucky last week. They should have lost to probably an average Carolina team. They block a punt. They hit a big play. They get a win. Now, magically, they're 6.5 or 7 now, 7-point dog because of Tom Brady's son. There's way too many weapons on this offense. And speaking to the defense looked fine last week. The defense has really only had a couple of bad games in terms of allowing points. Tampa is a solid team. Tom Brady is fine. And, hey, I hope Tom Brady is injured. Run the ball more. I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. I will continue to say it. And this is a great spot to continue to run. Tampa's fine. They'll cover.
Yeah, Bucks have allowed only 17 points in each of their last 2 games. Pierce, how about a favorite player prop?
I like Leonard Fournette over 62.5. Again, as I've been saying since the beginning of the season, you don't want Tom Brady throwing the ball 50 times. And guess what? In the games where Tom Brady threw 40 passes and I think 39 passes, he had his best quarterback rating. Limit his work. You've got running backs. Fournette is really starting to streak here. And as Julian mentioned earlier, the Philadelphia Eagles' run defense is terrible. They've given up big games to single running backs, like last week to Chuba Hubbard, and then given up good running back games to both of the Dallas running backs. That's just a place to attack here. 62.5 is pretty low for the way that I think this game will script out.
Jules, which player prop are you getting after?
Yeah, Reed missed a great chance there to plug his article on the DK Playbook where he gives all these NFL trends. Why is Reed giving all these trends on this show? Because at the DK Playbook, we're making him research trends for every single game. So it fits easy. And then this is where I plug my Thursday Night Football Best Bets article, which will have about 4 player props in it. One of them is going to be Leonard Fournette over 62.5 yards, so I won't give you that one. Another one is going to be Zach Ertz over 43.5 yards. Perfect spot for him. Tampa's got the worst pass defense in the NFL. The Eagles are home dogs here that should be playing from behind, trying to keep up with that Tampa offense. And Dallas Goedert's out in this game, so Zach Ertz, who has already gone over this number 2 times in his last 3 games, should only be getting more looks at the tight end spot. Perfect storm for Leonard Fournette. Totally agree with Pierce. Perfect storm for Zach Ertz in this game.
All right, Sweet Tea Fowler, go ahead. Is there anything you'd like to promote?
Well, that Julian's a more no. No, I appreciate the plug.
We can promote that too.
No, I appreciate the plug. That's what I like. I like when other people do my bidding for me. That's how it goes here. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, it kind of correlates to what Julian was mentioning about Zach Ertz. I think over 278.5 passing yards for Jalen Hurts is definitely in play. Look, we know what he can do with his legs, right? And this front 7, this front 4 can get pressure just by themselves. And what that means is that, Miles Sanders, while I do like his over 9.5 rush attempt because it's at plus 100, it's at even money, I do think that Hurts, because of this pass defense, now down 3 of their starters, from week 1, right, in the secondary. Now you got Richard Sherman on the list of, no one wanted this guy. Now you got to bring in retreads in the Tampa Bay defense because of the amount of injuries that they have. I just see him going over this. They're giving up 312 passing yards per game, 7.2 yards per attempt. And if Jalen Hurts can get going in this game, which I think he can, I think 278.5 is definitely well within reason.
Jules, who's getting in the end zone tonight? So we're talking like touchdown scoring bet here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can look. I think this game ties in really well from a prop perspective with Bucks rushing props, with Eagles passing props. We're probably all going to be wrong, but it feels like this one has a clear direction. So for that, because of that, like the guys we're talking about are who I like. Leonard Fournette is even money to score. I really like that. Jones has only been getting 4 or 5 carries a game, so Leonard Fournette should find his way in there. I think going to Devontae Smith or going to Zach Ertz for a little bit better money, if you want, is fine. But I would say Fournette's probably my favorite there at even money to get in anytime.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. Chuba Hubbard rushed for 100 yards versus the Eagles last week. Pierce, I know that you were taking the over on Fournette's rushing yards. So that's now 3 straight 95-yard rushers that the Eagles have given up. So you like that prop there, the touchdown scoring prop for Fournette as well?
Yeah, I'm never going to stop talking about these Tampa Bay running backs, and I'll go a step further. I like the odds with Fournette. But look at Gio Bernard at plus 290 to get in the end zone. He's had a receiving touchdown in each of the last 2 games. Philadelphia has allowed the 9th most receptions to running backs. And just put yourself in Philadelphia's shoes. You're in the goal line. Who are you going to guard? How do you stop this Tampa offense inside the red zone, inside the goal line? You don't even think about guarding Gio Bernard. And he hasn't been. That's why he's got touchdowns in the last 2 games. That's why he'll likely get another check down touchdown again.
Reed, whose chances do you like to score a touchdown tonight?
It's Chris Godwin. And the reason why the odds are there at plus 140, I know Mike Evans, right when Gronk was in, Mike Evans, those 2 guys were the main benefactors, Tom Brady in the red zone. But Chris Godwin ranks right now 3rd, I believe, in the NFL in red zone targets inside the 20. He's got 7 catches and 2 touchdowns. And most of those players are coming on 1st and 2nd down. That's really when they like to pass. I know Jalen Hurts has 3 rushing touchdowns. He's at plus 100, but I think Godwin is going to be a guy that we focus on. And plus 140, it's pretty good odds.
All right, Fowler, bring us home here. Slate-approved picks. So your favorite bet tonight on the DK Sportsbook for this Thursday night showdown between the Bucs and Eagles?
Yeah, it kind of correlates to what we led off with. I'm not really concerned. I'm not really on the -6.5 here, 4 -7, wherever it lands for Tampa Bay. So actually, a same game parlay. I think over 52.5, along with Tampa Bay money line, is definitely in play. Plus 160 right now. I think Tampa gets this, but I don't think they cover. I do think they go over.
Jules.
Yeah, it's a prop game, like I've been saying. So I'll just go with one of the ones that we haven't talked about. My best bet is the Leonard Fournette rushing yards over. I like Reed's Jalen Hurts passing yards over. I like the Zach Ertz one. The only one that we haven't discussed that I like a lot is props on Devontae Smith. The 5.5 receptions, the 71.5 receiving yards. Both of those are light.
All right, Pierce.
Let's prop it and parlay it. We're going to stick with running backs. We've already mentioned Fournette, but Ronald Jones' over-under is only 15.5 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Hubbard had 100 yards last week. You look back at the Dallas game, 95 for Elliott, 40 or 50 for Toby Pollard. You look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 100 and Darrell Williams had 40. There's plenty of opportunities for both of these running backs to eat. You want to go real crazy, take the receiving yards prop on Gio Bernard as well. That might be too far, but Jones and Fournette should easily go over both of their props.
All right, guys, you three are free to go. We'll talk about this game a little later on the DFS side of it. We'll have a fresh new panel for you. But we do still have one more divisional series game in baseball on the menu as well. And before we round the bases and talk some best bets and DFS plays there, let's head to Dallas and check in with our friend Nick Eatman and see how he thinks the Cowboys will stack up against the Patriots on Sunday.
Yeah. Fantasy stats. Dalton Schultz. I mean, what we said.
Who else, right? Keep dinking and dunking. Give him those 8-9 targets.
Yeah, I mean,
Guys, this series just had to go to 5 games, right? Two bitter rivals meeting for the first time in postseason play. And the Giants, they led baseball with 107 wins. You had the Dodgers finish with 106. They both have 109 now when you combine the regular season and postseason records. So first one to 110 wins. This is Game 5 of the NLDS tonight, and we got a panel here to talk about it. DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, Gary and Thorne, and Nick Fryer. And yeah, by the way, Dodgers just so happen to be defending world champions as well. So we're covering the bases. We're looking at some favorite DFS showdown plays and also some sportsbook plays for this Game 5 of LA and San Fran. So I need to know, who are you captaining on the DFS side here, Steven?
Yeah, I think you really can't go wrong with either starting pitcher in this one. I think these are two of the more undervalued pitchers left in these playoffs right now. Julio Urias, Logan Webb have both been excellent against the teams that they're facing tonight. Urias in particular has allowed 2 runs or less in 4 of the 5 starts that he's made against the Giants so far this season. Really goes deep in the games. Both of these guys go really deep into games. You can really count on them for at least 5 to 6 innings in this one, which is pretty deep considering how quick the hook has been in these playoffs for starting pitchers. The second anything goes wrong, it seems like these managers are chomping at the bit to take them out and go to their bullpens. But I think both these guys are going to go deep into this one. If you have me choose between the two, it's extremely close. I think Urias is probably the more reliable option here. A little bit higher strikeout upside against the Giants as well. So that would be my guy for captain tonight.
Okay, what about you, Nick? Last time we saw Webb on the mound, he was striking out 10 Dodger hitters as the Giants won Game 1.
I think Steve's right that you have to go with a pitcher in this one, but I think it ends up having to be Logan Webb. As much as Julio Urias has done really well against the Giants this season, aside from one hiccup, I think it was the whole way through, and like 6 chances, I still don't trust that if something doesn't happen early in this game, that Dave Roberts doesn't pull the trigger and say, no, I'm going to pull him out soon. I like Logan Webb. I trust Gabe Kapler to keep him in the game a little bit longer. And I think when you're looking at 2 of them, statistically, the Giants have done better against left-handed pitching this season, as much as they struggled against Urias, than the Dodgers have against right-handed pitching. In the second half, they have a solid ISO against right-handed pitching, but other than that, it's pretty much been middling. So I'm going to go with Webb in this one.
Okay, they're both obviously the highest priced players in the show down here, Garion. Do you want a pitcher? Or you want to go a different route?
I think I am going to end up captaining a pitcher, even though, as these guys both alluded to, despite the fact this game is probably going to end up being low scoring, with the way starting pitching has been utilized so far in these playoffs, it is a little worrisome to captain a pitcher at this price point, not knowing if they're even going to throw 5 innings. And, Steve was right when he said that these guys tend to work deep into games, and they've been 2 of the best pitchers in the National League since the All-Star break. But even on the DraftKings Sportsbook, right now, their total outs per are both 14.5, because the first sign of trouble, we saw it with Max Scherzer in the wild card game, just 4.1 innings thrown from Max Scherzer. So I don't know if you can count on win expectancy in this game, because I don't know if either of these guys are going 5. And Urias has derived a lot of his value so far this season from winning games, getting those 4 DraftKings points, and that's how he got to 20 wins this season. So I do think, as a slight tiebreaker, I lean to Logan Webb just because I do think he has more strikeout upside than Urias. I know the Dodgers don't tend to strike out all that much, but they did strike out 10 times the last time they saw this guy, a 35% strikeout rate for Webb back in Game 1. And if you go across his last 12 starts of the season, a 29% strikeout rate in that span of time. He's also been fantastic pitching in San Francisco this season, a 1.96 ERA, and he's been dominant against right-handed batters, just a 298 expected slugging percentage for right-handed batters against Webb this season. They're really going to miss Max Muncy in this lineup. I know they've got some left-handed bats deep in this with Gavin Lux and with Cody Bellinger, but where it counts, the Dodgers are really right-handed, and I think Logan Webb sets up pretty well here. So I lean Webb, but I do think you could use either one of these starters as your captain.
All right, let's go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook now, guys. Give me your favorite hitter prop here, Nick.
I'm going to go with Buster Posey here, and I know Garion in his Showdown article today over on the DK Playbook highlighted him as a hitter option for your captain spot if you choose to go that route. And with Posey for his total bases, over 1.5, I like that because when you look at batter versus pitcher numbers, I wouldn't say there are really many stellar matchups in here tonight, or numbers for hitters, that I should say. And there aren't, home runs too, hard to come by. But Buster Posey, a guy who doesn't have a home run against Urias, does have 4 of his 10 hits are for extra bases against Urias. He's had 23 career plate appearances against him, so he's done pretty well. And then against left-handed pitching this season, he got a 1051 OPS, 255 ISO, and a 431 WOBA.
All right, Gare Bear, how about you, dude?
Yeah, to echo what Nick's talking about, it's plus 140 for Buster Posey to go over 1.5 total bases. 10 for 20 in his career against Urias. And I think that matters because we have such a large sample size of Buster Posey crushing left-handed pitching throughout the entirety of his career. And if you don't want to use numbers from like 2011, well, in 2021, he had a 174 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. This guy can hit southpaws, and he's actually one of the few batters who's going to end up in the top half of this Giants lineup that has no worry about being pinch hit for in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning of this game. Buster Posey is going to catch every inning of this contest, so his ability to rack up 1.5 total bases, I think, is very much on the table.
Okay, Steven, talk to me to favorite hitter prop here. I feel like runs should be at a premium tonight.
Yeah, I mean, when we're sitting here saying how good the pitching is going to be, the first thing I'm not going to do immediately after that is go, let me go take some hitter props. Probably not going to be in my plans tonight, but there's a question that's being asked, so I suppose that I'll answer it. Mookie Betts over 1.5 bases at plus 105. Look, if you're looking to take some total bases here in a game where you think pitching is going to be at a premium, might as well try to go with the over total bases for these leadoff guys. Mookie Betts has 7 hits already through these playoffs, 7 for 20, few extra base hits in that span, 2 as well. Like I mentioned, and these guys have mentioned, we think runs are going to be at a premium. We think that pitching is going to dominate in this one. So hitters props is the most appealing thing in this particular game. You can also bet other things on DraftKings Sportsbook. It doesn't just have to be these, but if you want to take that here, over 1.5 bases for Mookie Betts at plus money, by the way, which I think is a nice little value there. That's what I would be doing.
So then, Steven, take me to your favorite pitcher prop then.
Yeah, so, Gary mentioned that those the over-under on the outs here of 14.5, they're kind of juiced up there a little bit here, but I think that that's something that you can consider here as well. But Julio Urias at over 4.5 strikeouts at minus 130, that's kind of going with the notion of how early these starting pitchers have been pulled in these games. But if you saw that like on a normal basis, that's extremely low for both of these pitchers, quite frankly. So if you don't mind paying up a little bit of juice, if you think that these guys are going to be going deep into these games, getting Urias at over 4.5 strikeouts at minus 130, like I mentioned, a little juiced up, but that's a really appealing number. That's why I'd be focusing on for those pitcher props.
Yeah, he punched out 5 Giants in his Game 2 start. Gary, and what about you, dude?
Yeah, I'm also looking at the strikeout props. I mean, you could kind of try to get creative here. I know there's some like home run over-under props as well, but Logan Webb, who's got that amazing ground ball rate, his under half a home run is juiced all the way up to minus 190. So I think you're probably just better taking Logan Webb over 4.5 strikeouts. As Steve said, in a vacuum, this looks really weird because Logan Webb has had more than 5 strikeouts in a game, 12 of his last 13 starts, including that game 1 outing against the Dodgers. But again, you can't think about this like it's a normal game. I don't think Logan Webb, if he makes it to the 6th inning, I won't be shocked. But that's saying something with how pitchers have been utilized so far in these playoffs. So with that massive strikeout rate, the 29% strikeout rate he carried through the final 2 months of the season, I think he can get 5 strikeouts in 5 innings. And I don't know how much more you can anticipate in terms of volume in a Game 5 do-or-die situation.
Yeah, Gary, he's been absolutely dominant at home this season, too. His ERA is under 2. He strikes out north of 10 batters per 9 innings on the year. Nick, your favorite pitcher prop is what?
I'm right there with these guys on this one. I'm going to go with Logan Webb and Garion on this one, on his strikeout prop, just because, again, I feel like he's more likely to stay in the game longer. If you're confident that Urias is going to go 5 innings, he will hit the over on this one. He did it every time he saw the Giants this season. He did it last time out, too. So I have all the confidence in the world that he can do that if he goes 5 innings. I just don't have confidence that he's going to go 5 innings. As for Webb, though, when you look at him, the one thing with the Dodgers that I'm worried about for Webb's outing is that they're going to try and work the count and get him out as early as possible. Obviously, he was very efficient last time out, but that still plays into his hand for strikeout rate and everything. And he's hit the over on this strikeout prop every time he's seen the Dodgers this season. 27.9% strikeout rate against them, even though they're not a team. I talked about how their numbers aren't particularly great against right-handed pitching. They don't strike out a ton against right-handed pitching either, but Webb still gets the Ks against them. So I think he's going to hit that over tonight.
I mean, Steve, you mentioned all of these bets that we've talked about. There's so much more offered on DK Sportsbook for this game. So your slate-approved pick now. Give me your favorite bet for tonight's Game 5, do or die, Dodgers and the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely going to be the under 7 runs that you can take in this game. We started at 6.5 for a little bit. Yesterday, it moved up to 7, which that's where I wanted to be taking at there, not at the 6.5. I'll absolutely take the under in this one. I do feel, even with how we've seen these playoffs shake out, starting pitchers getting out of these games early, offense is kind of going on these small bursts, or with the Red Sox against the Rays bullpen. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. It's really been, in this series, one offense or the other.
Yep.
Both these teams aren't scoring at a rapid rate. It's been one team does well or the other team does well. 7's a really low number, especially in these type playoff games. But I think that's the under. I think the under is the play in this one tonight.
Yeah, that's a great point. Dodgers have been shut out twice in this series, Steve, and San Fran has yet to score more than 4 runs in a game in this series. Gary, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to basically take Steve's bet, but I'm going to augment it slightly. Just because in a game this close, I do feel like extra innings might be on the table, and that always gets me a little nervous with the full game total. So I'm going to take the under 5.5 runs for the first 7 in this game. Really kind of maximizing the impact of Urias and Webb in this one. Both bullpens have been fantastic the final 2 months of the regular season, so I think you're really checking every box there. And also, because we have playoff baseball in San Francisco for the first time in a couple years, we get to talk about the Marine Layer. The Marine Layer has been coming in and really has been taking down some baseballs as of late. Gavin Lux thought he tied up that game 3 and was very, very disappointed to find out he did not. I know that game was at Dodger Stadium, but really across California in general, the Marine Layer is coming in. It is cooler. It will be cooler in San Francisco than it was in Los Angeles. You're going to see those people in the stands with their big puffy jackets on. This is not hitting weather. This is one of the best pitchers parks in all of baseball. I'm taking the under. I'm riding the Marine Layer.
The long ball suffocating Marine Layer. Nick, need your slate approved pick.
So Garian's pick was my second favorite pick for tonight. But in the end, I'm going to go money line here, and I'm going to go with the Giants tonight. As much as I know the Dodgers have outscored them 16-5 in this series, this is going to be a close game as we've been talking about this entire time. And when we're talking about a close game, the Giants have shown that they can come through in the end. And as much as the Dodgers have bigger names, Mookie, Trey Turner, and all these guys, the Giants still have guys who can change the game with one swing of the bat too. And when you look at their numbers too, they have the second best OPS and the second best WOBA in the second half of the season. So from the trade deadline. So I still think that the Giants can pull it out. I like their pitcher more tonight, so I'm going to go with them on the money line.
All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate it. Should be a good one tonight. Should be an epic one tonight. Should be a pretty good game also between the Bucks and the Eagles. I know we did the sports betting side of that one, but coming up right after this quick break, we will go ahead and poke over to the DFS side of this epic could-be battle. All right, guys, we got Thursday Night Football DFS here to gossip about because it's a matchup between the Bucs and the Eagles. This is two offenses that can light up the scoreboard, and then you got two defenses as well that can bend and break in the right circumstances. There's a milli maker available for this one on DraftKings, to go ahead and drop a few bucks and become, or try to, the next millionaire here on planet Earth. Let's discuss a little bit some of the top DFS plays for this showdown. We got DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich here, DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey, Matt Meiselman in the house as well. Who are you going to be putting at captain tonight? Decisions here, Jeffrey.
It is decisions. I won't try to say that again. I'm going to go with Antonio Brown. To me, it really comes down to two players. It's Jalen Hurts or Antonio Brown. I'm going to take the cheaper option because there's such a big gap in salary here. Jalen Hurts going to touch the ball a lot, but Antonio Brown, I just love this matchup too much. You've got Chris Godwin, who's a little bit banged up this week, and Chris Godwin also played his lowest snaps of the year last week in the Bucs' big win against the Dolphins. I think that's something to consider. Antonio Brown going off in that game, but you may see Brown just pop up with a few more opportunities here. And realistically, the Eagles have been holding up pretty well against weaker opponents on the outside, but they don't have the personnel to cover both Mike Evans and then Antonio Brown, who's going to be running around just wild in the middle of the field here, much like I think Tyreek Hill did against the secondary. I think there's a big night coming here for Antonio Brown for much the same reasons. And again, for showdown purposes, we got a lot of studs to roster here, and I think the savings on Antonio Brown gives you similar upside to Jalen Hurts, but it's going to save you a lot more money to be able to roster more studs in the flex. So I'll take Antonio Brown here.
I mean, Kenny, what are you doing? Because it is difficult to pin down the weekly wide receiver winner in this offense.
Yeah, look, I love the call on Antonio Brown by Jeff, and I think that I'm definitely going to have Antonio Brown in my lineup, and I'll talk about him in a second. But for me, at captain, I really like Leonard Fournette at 11.7K, and I know that this is a pretty dollar to pay for a guy that had 62% of the snaps in week 5. But when you look at this rushing defense for the Eagles, it is really, really bad. It's one of the 5 worst in terms of rushing yards per game in football right now. And Leonard Fournette is getting totes. I mean, we saw them run away with the game against the Dolphins last weekend. He had 12 carries for 67 yards, but he also had a touchdown. And the biggest thing here with Leonard Fournette is he's involved in the passing game now. That's a big thing for the Buccaneers. They want to get him the ball out of the backfield through the air. And he has 5 targets in each of the last 2 games. I think that Leonard Fournette is just going to run wild on this defense. And once the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get up on the Eagles, I think that he's going to get more and more of the football. So while there are a lot of interesting running back options here, I think Leonard Fournette's actually a pretty good deal because you can get him as what, the 7th or 8th most expensive captain's player, and then you can throw Tom Brady in your lineup as well, get a little bit of savings. So I think that's my favorite play.
Yeah, leading the team in touches too. Matt, who's your captain tonight?
So I like both of those picks in general for cash games, right? But for GPPs, I think those are the 2 highest owned non-quarterbacks of this game, with Fournette and Brown, and especially Brown, just with the recent performance. He's just been so good lately. Mike Evans has been also, but Mike Evans is a lot more expensive. So I think those savings with Brown will make him most likely the highest owned non-quarterback of the game. For me, I think that means that Devontae Smith at 8,800 just goes really overlooked. And of course, it's a 1-game contest. It's not like he'll be 10% or anything, but we could see some Bucs players around 50 or 60, and Smith comes in between 20 and 30. And that's just a massive discount for someone who I think honestly, like, projections will have him similar to these other Bucs guys. Dallas Goedert's out, so we have more to go around for a lot of these Eagles players. I think most people will just take the easy pivot there and just play Zach Ertz, who's only 3,200. But I think the expensive Eagles skill players will, in general, go overlooked. Smith obviously has some upside. He's got double-digit targets in back-to-back games. If the Eagles are trailing, even better for him. So I think that Smith just doesn't get a lot of attention, especially as a captain pick, but I kind of just like him across the board for this game.
Okay, yeah, he's 13-2 in the captain spot. So, Matt, I guess you would stack him with Hurts?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, I don't think that this is necessarily a showdown where you really need to try to correlate the players too much, because Jalen Hurts can score rushing points. Hurts having a huge game might even not be the best thing for Devontae Smith. So I don't really necessarily want to call it a stack, but like, I'm interested in running backs here, and I think playing Fournette is fine. I think playing Brown is fine. I think Miles Sanders goes overlooked, so that's not really a stack call, but I think that he also will just be someone who's undervalued here. I think there's this narrative at this point that running backs just don't do anything against Tampa Bay. The narrative makes sense. Like, they've been among the best rushing defenses in the NFL, but even last week, Myles Gaskin caught 2 touchdown passes against them. The Eagles don't run the ball that much anyway to their running backs. It's usually Hurts running or they're throwing it to their running backs. I think that this matchup isn't necessarily that bad for Sanders, and it's not that bad for Kenneth Gainwell either. So, like, I'm interested in all the running backs. I know we're going to get to it, but I don't really have one specific one. I kind of like all of them.
Yeah, Kenny, who are you going to stack with Leonard Fournette, your captain?
Look, I think that Matt makes a good point that, the 2 most owned players here will be Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette. So I'm actually, because I'm getting a little bit of a savings with Leonard Fournette, I think I'm going to pay up here and take Mike Evans at 10.2K in what could be a contrarian spot because he is expensive. You do have the presence of Antonio Brown there and Devontae Smith, 2 guys that I think the public might gravitate towards. And I think that people will fade Evans at this high price. When you look at the performance, I mean, it's absolutely insane. He did only get 8 targets last week, and he did score 32 DraftKings fantasy points. So perhaps people see a letdown coming. But he does lead this team in the percentage of air yards for Tampa Bay at 31.56%. So I think that he is still pretty much the focal point of this passing attack. And this is a passing attack that, again, I do expect to thrive. This is one of the worst secondaries in football, the Eagles. The Buccaneers have the worst secondary in football in terms of yards per game allowed as well. So I think that this is a game where I'm really looking to target the receivers. But to me, this is a very exciting spot here because I think we can afford Evans if we just pay down a captain a little bit. And I think the Buccaneers could have a nice day through the air. And I think that this guy might be overlooked with the amount of consistency that he's had. I want to take him.
Jeff, you stack Brady with Brown, your captain. Brady's surpassing 30 DK points in 4 of his 5 contests this season.
I actually think Tom Brady is kind of an interesting fade candidate in this game because we have so many other studs where I think, the touches are going to be there for him. And if I'm going to use a skill player from Tampa in my captain spot to go off, I think you go back with Jalen Hurts to stack them with. Again, I mentioned this off the top. Like there's going to be so many touches for Jalen Hurts in this game. Teams throw the ball more against Tampa Bay than any other team in the league. Tampa Bay plays at the fastest pace in the league. And they're really realistically, maybe other than Lamar Jackson, there's no other fantasy player who just touches the ball and gets usage and plays more than Jalen Hurts. This guy threw for 190 yards twice already on the season. In both those games, he still managed over 21 points on DraftKings. That's how an effective fantasy player that's how effective a fantasy player he is, just with the rushing upside as well. Again, he's probably going to approach like 280, maybe even 300 yards in this game because it's Tampa Bay. To me, Jalen Hurts is a must play, regardless of if you're going value in the captain spot. I'm going to come back with him because he is the Eagles offense.
Yeah, he's got 30-point upside, will likely be called upon to use his legs and his arm to move the Eagles offense. I know we have talked a little bit about the running backs here, guys. I know Kenny likes Leonard Fournette. Sounds like a lot of you guys do. But there have been some inconsistent performances from the running backs on both of these teams. Is there another running back play you like tonight, Matt? You also mentioned Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I think Sanders is worth playing. I think Fournette's worth playing. I mean, I think it's just because of the inconsistency that you're talking about, the ownership is just going to be low across the board for this position. But I do think Giovanni Bernard is interesting because one of the ways that fading some Tampa Bay receivers would work out is if somebody else in their offense catches passes. And Bernard isn't really a running back. Like, he plays in the backfield and he takes snaps away from running backs, but he does just about everything through the air. So I think Bernard is interesting. I think because of his price, like, no one's really going to play him. He's up to 5,200. So I think Bernard is compelling, but this is a game where I think the focus is on Tampa Bay receivers and the quarterbacks, and running backs, aside from Leonard Fournette, really just go overlooked. So if you're playing for a game where maybe Philly has the lead, I know that's like not really the most common strategy, but I do think it's a plausible one. Like, the Eagles are not a horrible team. They are at home. I think they could get out to a lead, and then maybe we see Gio Bernard play more than Fournette. So that's kind of the outcome I'm planning for.
Yeah, he shot into the end zone last week. Jeff, what about you here, dude? Any running backs besides the obvious choices we've talked about?
Yeah, so look, Fournette, I agree with Kenny. I mean, I think it's actually very close between him and Antonio Brown in terms of like if you're looking for a value guy in the top tier, maybe to captain. Fournette's fine. He could absolutely dominate the scoring here, maybe playing with Antonio Brown. But if we're going like, if we're trying to like, get our lizard brain going, we're looking for the value. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Kenny Gainwell. Why not go to Ronald Jones at 1,800? He's cheaper. He's going to be nothing owned. He's still getting red zone touches. He's gotten multiple red zone touches in each of the last 2 games. You're basically playing here for a touchdown, but like Matt said, what if Tampa Bay gets up early here and they're just like, it's a short week, let's give Ronald Jones the ball. What's the worst he can do? Fumble once, we're still up like 3 touchdowns. That's definitely a scenario that could play out. And I think at 1,800, I would rather take a shot with him as a low-owned play in GPPs than Gainwell. He's got a much better chance of scoring a touchdown, in my opinion. So I think Ronald Jones, again, this is all just like GPP strategy play. I'm not recommending you put him in all your lineups because there's a chance he gets like 5 carries for 2 yards. But Ronald Jones, I think, has some upside given Tampa's spot here in the odds and stuff.
Kenny, we know you're a big fan of Leonard Fournette, kind of becoming that complete back. Less predictable than either that pure power Ronald Jones or pure receiving Giovanni Bernard, any of these other running backs you like?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm basically just the judge here, right? Because we've already listed all the options. So now I get to pick which my favorite guy is. And no, Gio Bernard, I think is my favorite guy at 23%. I agree. So Jeff's strategy here is correct that I think on a short week, what we normally see is we see some, I mean, we've seen like Tywan Jones get involved for the Bills on a short week, right? Like it happens. They go down the depth chart. They want to save their legs. So, but I think that the way that the Buccaneers do that is that they get Gio Bernard a little bit more of the ball, 23% of the snaps last week, and they love him out of the backfield, and obviously he was missing with that injury, and I think that this is a guy that they really do want to get involved in the game plan, and I think $5,200 is just a little bit too cheap, and I also want to clarify something I said earlier. I said the Eagles have I misspoke. The Eagles have a bad rushing defense. The Buccaneers have a bad passing defense so far this season. So what you want to do is you want to attack with potentially a Philadelphia, a Tampa Bay running back and Philadelphia receivers. So that's why I like Bernard here. I think that he might get the ball for some totes, but regardless, I think he gets the ball through the air out of the backfield, and he's a good option tonight. That's probably my favorite play.
Wow, no Kenneth Gainwell love here, dudes. I mean, you would think Myles Gaskin's performance last week would inspire the Eagles to use Sanders and maybe Gainwell a little more. Gaskin's had 10 catches.
Performance?
Yeah. I'm just saying
Gaskin.
I'm saying last week the performance that he had against the Eagles, the 10 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Come on. Anywho, whatever, Jeff. Go ahead. Give me your favorite value play. I feel like we've talked about every single player in this one already.
Oh, we haven't, because we haven't mentioned my favorite player in this entire game. It's Quez Watkins, the Quez Show. Give me a break. This guy's averaging like 20 yards per reception. Now there's rumblings in the Philly organization that they want to get him more involved, which makes sense. He's basically playing better than Jalen Reagor. I don't know why they wouldn't give this guy more snaps. It's Tampa Bay. Teams throw the ball a ton. This has been beaten to death. We know this. And Philly, plus 6.5 underdogs, it really should lead to like 5 or 6 targets for Quez Watkins, which is like double what he's been getting. If he does that, he's going to have a shot at, 50 to 60 yards if he somehow finds the end zone at this price and gets that long touchdown, which we've seen him be able to almost do, getting tackled at the 1 there. I think it's a great play in this kind of scenario. 4,600, way too cheap. I think he's even viable perhaps as a captain spot.
Okay. Wow. Hot take. Young Kenneth, how about you? Value play.
I'll never forget doing a preseason showdown with a segment with Jeff, and he brought up Quez Watkins, and I had to go Google really quickly who it was. And yeah, now he's emerged as a really good option for the Eagles. So this is the leader of the Quez Watkins fan club. So you take him at his word. You also take it with a little grain of salt. I like Zach Ertz here. I think that this is the best value play at $3,200. The guys have said it. You want to attack this Tampa Bay secondary, and Zach Ertz is actually second on the team in the percentage of air yards towards him, almost at 20%. And when you look at the targets, it makes perfect sense. So he had 6 targets last week, 15 in 2 weeks combined in weeks 3 and 4. He's getting involved in this game plan. He didn't have a great game against Carolina, which is a good defense. I think against potentially a little bit better of a matchup here in terms of the linebackers that are be covering him. I think that Zach Ertz could be a focal point of this Eagles offense. And again, when you look at the way that he has emerged as a player in this offense, I think we think he's washed up because last year he had those issues with the team. He was thinking about leaving.
Yep.
They were kind of moving on from Zach Ertz. He comes in the offseason and says, no, I'm going to come back. I want to play for this team. And he's still a very good football player. And I think now they're trying to get him to football. And I think on a short week here, maybe he stuns a little bit of people in this showdown. He gets a touchdown, and he makes it worth your while to put him in your lineup. This is a very good price to pay on a talented guy, $3,200. He's not done yet.
Yeah, he's earning an average of 7 targets over his past 3 games. I think you're onto something here, young Kenneth. Matt, bring us home.
Yeah, so I think the value play to choose has a lot to do with what the rest of your lineup looks like. So if you're playing some of these high-priced Bucs guys, I do think Gainwell is the player to go to. This is someone who had 8 targets and 6 receptions against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, and that was the game the Eagles were trailing. I think they probably used him more in large part because they were losing, and they maybe like him more as a receiver out of the backfield ahead of Sanders. So if you're playing that lineup, I think Gainwell makes more sense. And then the other way, I think Bernard's still maybe the value play to look to. Maybe Ronald Jones. Maybe you play someone like Tyler Johnson on the Bucs. Like I think that the takeaway from all of us is there are a lot. Like this has been the most disjointed that we've been on all of our picks. Like we've kind of named every single player in this game. For me, really, the value thing to do here is just play more Eagles than Bucs players. Like that's the contrarian route where I think most people start their lineups with Brady, with Brown, with Evans or Godwin, and then try to fill in a few cheap Eagles, maybe Jalen Hurts, and you have $4 and 2 Eagles in the lineup. For me, I'm trying to do the opposite. So I know it's not a precise answer, but I just felt like I needed to give more of a specified strategy there because we've kind of named every single player in this game.
100% we have. I can confirm. As the man sitting here reading a prompter asking you guys the question.
Kickers.
No, we're not going there. Turns out that we're out of time. I'm so sorry. Kenny and Matt, you can go. Jeff actually needs you to hang around because your internet's working today, and we need to talk some hockey. We have 9 games on this slate. This is the 3rd day, and let's do it right after this quick break. All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes left in this show, so we are going to go quality over quantity. We got NHL opening face-off here where you guys, our panel, Paul Bruno, AJ Scholes, Jeff Ulrich, you guys are going to share with us your favorite DFS plays at each position. So let's start with favorite wing or center on tonight's 9-game slate. Jeffrey.
I'm going to go with Jonathan Drouin at 3,500. I really love this Habs second line right now. They've got Christian Dvorak in. Josh Anderson is a player I like, and another player you could play. Realistically, you could stack all these 3 players together. They're a really good value option. But Jonathan Drouin, to me, is the most talented of the bunch. Scored in the first game. I think he's due for a bounce-back season. Keep targeting this Habs second line until the prices go up.
All right, Paul, how about you, dude?
I'm looking to go a little cheaper here. I like Brock Nelson of the Islanders, who's on the road against Carolina. He's a shot first, pass later pivot, and will be playing second line minutes, likely avoiding the Canes' top defensive opposition, as well as earning power play time. He costs only $5,800 today. From the same game, I really like Hurricanes winger Toivo Teravainen, who's slated to play top line minutes alongside Sebastian Aho, as well as being a point man on the top power play unit there. This guy missed a ton of action last season, so his point totals are overlooked when you consider last year's leaders. But going into tonight's DFS, I really like him at $5,100.
A nice win by your boys last night too, Paul. AJ, how about your favorite wing or center on tonight's slate?
These guys are overthinking it a little bit too much here. I know he's the most expensive player on the board at 8,400, but how do you not use Kucherov tonight? Like, they got absolutely dusted in the season opener, got called out by Coach John Cooper, who said they probably would have lost to the Penguins farm team or minor league team here, but he was on the ice for 11 faceoffs in the offensive zone. That was second highest in the team. He's on the number one power play here. And that's not even mentioning the Detroit Red Wings, who are going to be abysmal again. So, yeah, it's a great night to use the Lightning. They're going to be pricier. Yeah, they might be slightly over drafted percentage here, but you got to use Kucherov tonight.
AJ, who's your favorite goalie, dude?
Well, it wasn't a great first night for Philip Grubauer. I was expecting a little bit more out of him. He had just 4.2 fantasy points on DraftKings in the season opener, gave up 4 goals on 30 shots. But the Nashville Predators are a bit of a one-line team right now. The price tag at $7,400 comes in significantly below the top of the price range here. And, considering Nashville are still the favorites on the DK Sportsbook here, I think that's just going to serve to lower Grubauer's drafted percentage here. I expect a bounce-back game out of him and a reasonable cost savings at $7,400.
Cool. Paul, how about you, man?
I go to the top of the board for Tampa in the goaltending department, Emerson. Tampa was awful in that opening game, as AJ said, probably caught up in the banner-raising ceremony and all that nonsense that goes on with the pomp and circumstance, but it's a new season. They'll be much better, and will take out some of their frustration from that effort with a much better one against the Red Wings tonight. So I like Vasilevsky in the spot for $8,400. Still at the top of the board, if you want another guy in the top tier, go with Peter Mrazek of the Leafs for $8,200. They're traveling to Ottawa. This is a team without their signature player still signed in Brady Tkachuk. For his part, Mrazek's only lost once in 12 career starts versus the Sens, and he's going to want to make a great impression in his debut in the new blue and white colors.
All right, Jeffrey, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go right to the center here in between these guys and split the difference. I'll go with Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. A little surprising to people, I think, that he didn't get the start in game one, but this is, it's a home matchup. The Rangers are in a much similar spot to Tampa Bay. Just a poor effort against Washington. I know AJ and I were both expecting them to perhaps just win that game. We do think they're the better team there. And they're small favorites tonight, but it does seem like a bit of an overreaction. I don't think anyone's going to play them, which is the big factor here. Shesterkin, though, is a very, very high upside goalie. 2 shutouts last year. Still a career save percentage over 0.92. So this is a player where you should be rostering him when he's lower on because his upside is massive. Very, very talented. I like Shesterkin under 8K here. I think he's a really good price here, and I'm expecting a bounce back from the Rangers, just like the Lightning.
Yeah, small little favorite there over the Stars. Real quick here, guys, value play. Jeff.
Patrick Laine, Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the Arizona Coyotes. I was about to say Cardinals. But Laine only 4,300. New head coach, new system, still playing on the top power play unit, top line and everything. I mean, you've got to expect a bounce back. You've got to play him while he's still cheap at the very least and try and get these upside games because if he bounces back this year, this price is going to be a joke.
Yeah, continuing to get top line minutes. Go ahead, Paul.
You know what? Whenever you're picking a goalie, that's where I start my rosters. You got to build out from the net. I'm going to go cheap because anybody that's playing Buffalo or Buffalo's or Arizona is going to be a player that I look at. So it's Elvis Merzlikins for the Blue Jackets and Sam Moulton-Blow for the Florida Panthers here, for the Canadians rather, for $8,000.
All right, AJ.
I know Buffalo is going to get hammered most of the season, but this is a good spot for them to be in. Montembeault, as Paul said, gets the start on the second game of back-to-back. So Victor Olofsson at 3,400. He won't be playing with Jack Eichel like he used to, obviously, but he's got 78 points in 116 games, just above a point every other game pace. So I like him at 3,400.
Our handsome hockey dudes. That's how you do what you guys just did. Appreciate it. That's a show, everybody. Make sure you hang out for a bunch of Madden games on the YouTube and Twitch channels, plus the slate at 5 o'clock with Adam Kaufman and Sweet Tea Fowler. We'll see you guys tomorrow.